Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex or Nuzznuz here, and today's video is going to be about 10 tips for doing Zuck on normal mode without dying to get your upgraded cape. So you guys said you're having a lot of trouble with this, so I thought I'd make this video. Now, there's a few distinctions that I'd like to make first, and that's the misconception that you need to complete all 3 challenge waves to get the upgrade to your kiln cape. That's actually false. You only need to do the full run without dying or banking, so basically doing it in one sitting. The 3 challenges need to be done as well as not dying for a flawless run to unlock hard mode. So you need a flawless run, not dying with the challenges to unlock hard mode, and then you just need to do the kill without dying or banking to get the cape upgrade. Now, of course, doing the challenges successfully means you'll take less damage, so of course knowing how to do them is also a plus, and we're going to cover them in this video as well. So we're going to get into the top 10 tips to help you achieve this deathless run or flawless, whichever you're going for. If you like PVM guides like this, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. So this video is not going to be a wave by wave guide. There are already some on YouTube that are pretty good. This will be actually different tips and strategies that can actually be the difference between getting a kill or dying. These strategies are going to be for ranged, some for mage, and some for every style. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is a tip for range, and that is Bacriminal bolts, but specifically Onyx Bacriminal bolts and Hydrix bolts. Now, Hydrix bolts are amazing, of course, for gaining adrenaline during some of the DPS checks. But Onyx bolts are perfect for survival. They basically heal you HP when they proc, and camping these bolts you're going to get so much extra health, it's really just super OP. So that's a recommendation that I have if you're struggling on staying alive food wise, is start to use Onyx bolts. The next tip is going to be more of a high level strategy, but if you can do this correctly, it will save you a ton of time and food. And this strategy is basically killing the Hurricane in one cycle without him diving into the lava. Basically on wave 17 the Hurricane will spawn and you'll need to kill it to finally fight Zuck. However, it will be up and attackable for only a little bit with a damage reduction, and then it goes underwater and you'll have to dodge its bomb attack and wait for it to come up while tanking all the tentacles. However, if you can manage to kill it in one cycle, this can save you so much time and supplies. So basically what I do is I make sure I'm full adrenaline after wave 16 ends. I'll then surge to where the Hurricane spawns, I'll use Death Swiftness, use my adrenaline pot, then Saren Godbow spec, unleash my thresholds, and make sure I'm using Hydrix bolts to get more adrenaline and be able to debow spec. I'll usually be able to one cycle it pretty easy this way, and like I mentioned before, this is a more advanced tactic, but it can be super nice if you can successfully learn to do it, as it'll save you a ton of food and cut off about a minute or 2 of your time. Next we have the Devotion ability. Now this is pretty self-explanatory. It basically blocks all damage from the style that you're praying. However, using Devotion the right way is very important. You can actually extend your Devotion by killing a monster to get even more time on it. Using it for the Rangers really helps, and then killing one right away with like a debow spec or threshold can make you basically not take any damage from Rangers for a decent length of time, as your Devo will be extended. I constantly am using Devotion whenever it's off cooldown, and if you aren't, you should be using it and you should be extending it, especially for the phases with all the Rangers. The big ones in particular hit super hard, so this is very good for negating it. So next we're going to talk about the Holy Grail Rock, the Northwest Rock. This is probably the best place you can stand for most of the waves, as the mobs will get trapped in perfect spots, and if any spawn near you, you can deal with them and then wait on the others. This is the spot that I use for all of the Jad waves and basically almost all the other waves. It'll really save you a ton of food doing this. Of course, when the Magma Geyser is up, you can run south and still kind of safe spot, or move to the neighboring area. Really try to get familiar with the northwest spot, how everything spawns, as it'll really help you with your runs. Remember, it's not about going the fastest when you're trying to learn, it's about just learning exactly what to do for each wave so you're comfortable. So next we have the Tokkul Zo Ring, which is gotten from completing the Elder Kin quests. It boosts the damage against Tazar and Tokar creatures by 10% when worn. Now this doesn't work on Zuck, but it does work on all the mobs during this fight, which makes it super good if you're struggling with damage. So next we have another item, which is the Scripture of Wen, which is a pocket slot item that is super good here. Basically, it creates an AoE area that deals massive damage. This can be super good if you have minions piled up and it procs. It can basically wipe out a bunch of minions at once. It's probably one of the best pocket slot items to use here, as it has great AoE damage, and it's also dirt cheap to use as well. So if you haven't made the investment into the Scripture of Wen, it's very good. So next I have a tip for the Zuk fight himself. So Zuk will summon minions later in the fight when he phases. He will spawn 3 minions that you need to get to and kill, and then use the action button to cancel his instant kill attack. There is a lot of fire on the ground during this that will kill you very easily if you miss your surge or you stand in it for basically any time. The best way I found to get to these minions is actually not to use the bladed dive ability or anything else. But the thing you want to do is you want to spam click on the minions when they spawn, and your character will turn to them and try to attack them. And then you can surge, and if you do this right, it should take you basically directly to the minion. This is really good and really helps, and I found it's a much better way to do this than trying to manually line up your surge in the right direction or using bladed dive and stuff like that. It's just a super simple trick. Another tip is on phases 4, 8, and 14, you will get a spawn of igneous minions. Now you need to kill 3 of them in different ways. So the meleeers, you need to stun them and then you can damage them. The ragers, you'll threshold them to be able to damage them. And the magers, you need to stand in their proximity shield to damage them. Something on this wave that you need to be doing if you aren't already is going directly after those 3 big minions and not killing anything else unless you have to. Basically, I use Devotion and run and kill all 3 igneous minions, and usually my devotion stays up for most of the time. After they're dead, you can immediately press the action button and surge to Zuk, and it will instant kill all of the minions around you, so you don't actually have to kill anything this wave besides the big 3 minions. Most people probably know this, but if you don't, you should be doing it. Like I said before, devotion is super good for during these phases because everything attacks with the same style, so you can basically block all damage and extend it pretty easy. So next we're going to talk about an item that not a lot of people probably have, but if you do have it or you plan to make it, it's super good, and that's the Blessed Flask. Now this flask takes a while to gather all the materials to make, as you need like 1200 red sandstone and 5000 harmonic dust, and a bunch of other items which take a while to collect. But basically this acts as a huge bottomless flask, basically storing a ton of prayer potion charges, which means you can bring it in one slot and be able to drink it like 50 times to restore prayer, and normally you need at least like 6 prayer potions, if not even more, depending on your kill speeds. So this is going to save you so much inventory space, which can then be used for food, which can help you survive for longer. And for your first attempts, make sure you're using a beast of burden like a yak or pack mammoth. It really helps. Finally, for the last tip, it's actually just going to be me explaining and showing you how to do each challenge phase during the fight. So the first challenge phase I'm going to talk about is wave 5. You spawn in basically a little pizza-like arena. There are 5 volatile minions. They slowly charge up and you need to kill them all before they detonate. Basically, the way I do this with my current range gear is to do something like this. The order doesn't matter too much. I'll snapshot one minion, I'll greater ricochet the other minion, I'll dark bow spec a third minion, I'll use like a basic and a bleed on another minion, and then I'll rapid fire the last minion in some particular order. You want to make sure you're using your adrenaline potions at all times, as well as Hydrix bolts for this, and it'll be so much easier. Now for magic, your best option is using something like Greater Chain with Omni Power. This can kill 3 minions at once basically. Then you can use like Wild Magic and Asphyxiate on the last 2 minions to finish them off. This is probably the hardest challenge phase, but try to learn a rotation that works for you and it'll be a breeze. If you don't have an Essence of Finality amulet, it's such a good investment, and I've preached about it all the time on my other videos for basically all PVM, but for this it really shines. Like I said, it's very good to put a Debo or a Gothic Staff for getting the DPS checks like the one I just talked about, but it's also good for taking less damage through your protection prayers and soul splitting more HP. So yeah, like I said, it's super good, and if you're struggling, that may be the thing that sets you over the top to do this DPS challenge. So for the next challenge, we have the Unbreakable minion on wave 10. This is a minion that spawns and it'll start charging up and then it will detonate if you don't kill it fast enough. It has a damage reduction feature that stops it from being damaged by any attacks dealing less than 3000 damage. So using thresholds or special attacks like the Dark Bow spec, Omni Power, Wild Magic, Gothic Staff spec, high hitting attacks are going to help you kill this, and generally once you know what it does, it's very easy to kill. I usually debow it and stun it and then snapshot or debow again. If you're having trouble dealing the big damage with your abilities to break through, you can also Death Swiftness or Sunshine to increase your ability's damage to be able to kill this as well. And then finally, for the 15th wave and final challenge, 3 minions will spawn and will attack the player and deal very high damage. You basically need to not take any damage during this phase, and the easiest way to deal with this phase is to have 100% adrenaline when you go into the start of this phase, and then barricade right when you see the first attack come. Not when the minions spawn. If you barricade too early, it will run out and you'll die. The turtling perk will also really help with this as it extends your barricade. If for some reason your barricade does run out or you don't have the adrenaline for barricade when the phase starts, you can use something like Devotion and then switch prayers according to the colors of the projectiles. And all in all, this is probably the easiest challenge phase once you know what to do. You can also bring an adrenaline pod and drink that before the phase starts if you're looking low on adrenaline, and Hydrix bolts as well can be used to gain adrenaline in a pinch. So that's gonna do it for all 10 tips and tricks. These are just things that I've learned from doing, it's about 25 normal mode kills now, and it's stuff that I didn't know at the beginning, but after, my friend told me to use Onyx bolts, it really helped my survivability. So just that one tip really helped me, but of course these are all, very useful tips in their own way. And a few honorable mentions that I'll just mention super quick is the use of Chinchampas with range is pretty good as well. And then if you soul split on Zuck during the time that, he's sitting in his chair and you need to attack him, you can actually soul split because you won't be being damaged at all before the challenge phases. So this is nice for gaining some HP. And then after the challenge phase ends, you can attack Zuck again to gain more HP or adrenaline. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. If it helped you out, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. And yeah, I saw a lot of people were struggling, so I thought I'd give you all the tips that I use to help me out. And yeah, I'm sorry if there wasn't very many melee tips. It's just melee is a very hard style to use at Zuck, just because, it's just not very intuitive for the fight caves like this. Another quick tip is Mage is probably the best style, using Animate Dead. With tank armor, you're going to take so much less damage. So if you want to go the Mage route, you can do that and you'll kill things slower. Your kill speeds will be slower, but you'll take way less damage. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.